Hey everyone, welcome back. We're in the final stretches here. Woohoo! What do we got? Really 2 weeks left because I'm doing this a little bit before the Thanksgiving break. So that's exciting. 2 weeks. Woohoo! All right. So this week we are going over we're trying to figure out our hi-fis and our high fidelity mock-ups. And basically, we're going to just take these last few weeks for you to just kind of stay in design mode. So that's what I want you to do. So part of this week is about looking and thinking about a style guide. I'm not going over too deeply on the style guide since this is a shorty, but I do define what a style guide is, and I give you examples under the required readings this week. There's quite a few examples. One is very interesting. This is the Starbucks style guide. And it's not showing right now. I don't know why it's not secure. Whatever. It should show something about my certificate here. But anyway, it should show the Creative Starbucks style guide. Let me see here. But it's just interesting. So a style guide is really just kind of the bare bones of what you want. The fonts, the colors, the whole overall look and feel and the vibe of the website. Is it going to be dark? Is it going to be light? And it helps you as the designer to kind of keep yourself focused while you are designing so many things. I mean, most of you are doing an app or something that isn't extremely complicated. But, there are quite a few. See, this is the website. Oh, it won't let me go. Okay, whatever. It's blocked. I'm at school. Hopefully you can access this website. But they talk about their even style guides are very specific for certain, Google's style guide, I'm sure is very uptight. Let's see here. Specific, meaning you can only use it like this or you can't use it like that. And this has to be the color. And the color is this hexadecimal. And it's exactly this color. And you can't ever use another color. I was in marketing for a long time at Stanford. And that was difficult because we just had red, kind of like Porterville College. And that is a hard color because when you go a little bit lighter than red, it's pink. And most people don't like pink, right? So we're talking about style guides, and I'll put up some other links since this one doesn't want to work. And then we're thinking about our style guide, and then I want to talk about, this is probably my last lecture for this semester, and thank you so much for taking this class as a new class, and I'm just kind of getting this certificate going. I hope you all continue to part 2, which is going to be offered by Marie, and you're going to actually prototype this design. So that's how this class is going to work. The part 2 is when you prototype. So I hope that you continue on and you actually make this design. So high fidelity. What is high fidelity versus low fidelity? Right? This week we're doing low fidelity. Last week you did low fidelity. This week you're doing high fidelity. And basically it's just filling in on all the empty spots. That's really what you're doing. So a high fidelity mockup builds on the low fidelity mockup and looks like the finished product. You're going to try to keep it as close as you can by coming up with all the designery things like a style guide. So even if you do decide that, okay, here's my colors, you could go to Coolers, Coolers, I think is the website, and you could go find a palette with the color names and just kind of take little bits, or there's all kinds of places to pick a color palette. But you could bring that into your Figma file and just kind of have it there, and just so you know those are your colors, and then you can match it in Figma and then design with it. That's how we do it as designers, especially if we have to do multiple iterations of things, So a high fidelity mockup has the correct images, font, text, buttons, icons, everything you would see on your finished design. All right, and here we go. So we started off in sketches. Here's our low fidelity and here's our high fidelity, right? The visual details build on a low fidelity design and provide potential clients with a more complete picture of what the final product should look like. By using the icons, color, and actual content, the high fidelity design allows the developers to understand what needs edits or updates before the final product is ready. So here we go again, right? We saw this in the low fidelity, you know, even here, this is a low fidelity. They had kind of the swoosh here, but they didn't like those colors. And, you know, this is really the time when you do decide these things. You know, they've got the gears, but then they changed him to yellow over here and did a gradient, and the button was a gradient. So it's when you make those really serious decisions. Here's an example of high fidelity, low fidelity. And here's a case study. And this is really the full case study, right? Here's here's an app, high fidelity, finished product. You know, a lot of times in your high fidelity designs, you really do want to have nice photos. It really changes the game. So even if you found some really nice photos for your website or your app, whatever it is, it's a game changer. So I implore you to go to like Pexels, PEXELS.com. They have free high quality photos that you can use and grab for your website or for your app. Okay, then we're going to go into style guides because you're really creating the style right now. That's what the high fidelity does. Style guides encompass the entire look and feel of a company. They're mostly the designer's domain, as it's their responsibility that the finished product is visually on brand, right? So once a style guide is created, it forever dictates how a brand manifests. That is, unless the company goes through a rebrand. Even if designers change or you're working with multiple designers at a time, the longevity of style guides remain intact. And refer back to your mood board, right? You created these mood boards in the very, very beginning of class of just like whatever. And I tried to visit this website and it's not working at school, but I implore you to go look at Starbucks' style guide. It's significantly more thorough than what is required, obviously, but you know, it's a good example of how it's important to have a style guide and why you need a style guide. Especially if you do just start designing for larger companies, that's like a Bible, you know, for them, because then everything can stay the same. And, you know, style guides change, people change, rebrands change every few years, just like our computers change, our phones get faster, designs change, you know, what was once bigger a few years ago is no longer in style. So it's just trendy, right? To stay up on your style guide and to keep defining style guides. So focus on for your style guide. And this doesn't have to be like a full-on fancy anything. It could just be a little section of your Figma file that just is devoted to what your logo is. You should have some kind of logo. So you might have to make a logo. And at this point, I know it's T-2 weeks, so I don't care how you make that logo, or if you grab an old logo and redesign it, or if you get some help from AI to fix the logo, or do whatever to make it look nice. It's not about the logo design, because what we're doing is this case study, and we're showing people how we think about design, not necessarily how awesome our logo design skills are. And they might be amazing, but you might not have time. And I want you to make sure your finished designs are actually looking pretty polished for your portfolio, which I'm teaching next semester to get the certificate. So a lot of you that are taking this class for their certificate, we kind of need to have some finished, good looking designs. So that's what I want you to be thinking of, is how you can make something look good for your portfolio and how it looks good, you know, because you're going to prototype it as well. But you could change a lot of that next semester. You know, a lot of times I look at my old designs and I'm like, what was I thinking? I hate this, you know? And that just is, you know, because we change. We change as artists. We change as design thinkers. We change in trends. Nothing ever stays the same in terms of art and how we think and view art. So think about what you like. This is a great example of a quickie style guide, you know, and you don't even need this many fonts. You might even just have 2 fonts. You might have like a header font and a paragraph font, and that's it. Fine. Done. But they did pick their 3 colors here. So I think you should think about at least having 3 colors and defining at least 2 fonts. That could be just a basic. What a header looks like. You could do a subheader and a body text, whatever you want. I'm not going to really grade you on the style guide. I want it to look good, and that's just going to be on you to figure that out, right? So I'm not telling you exactly how to do it, because at this point you are creating your own designs, you know? So create your high fidelity mock-up as close to the final design as possible. And this is going to be till the end. This is our last lecture. This is the last assignment. So you have time. I'm giving you an extra 2 weeks. Finals are the second week of December. So we have 2 more weeks for this. So compare your mock-up with your wireframe to ensure consistency and that you are meeting your objectives. Once your high fidelity mock-up is finished, perform a heuristic evaluation to the best of your ability. Heuristics. We'll go into heuristics. A heuristic evaluation is a method for identifying design problems in a user interface. Evaluators judge the design against a set of guidelines called heuristics that make systems easy to use. The person who invented heuristics is Jakob Nielsen, and he runs the Nielsen-Norman Group. He's basically the godfather of UI UX. I think I've talked about him, but here are the heuristics. It's a weird name. And actually, Jakob Nielsen, I've been following him a lot. I follow him on LinkedIn. I follow him on, I don't know where else. I get his newsletter. But he's really tackling AI. It's really interesting what he's finding about AI. So it's really, he's written so many books about UI UX, and honestly, to even be affiliated with him, he's like probably the highest paid UX designer, and his group, like, it's millions of dollars just to get them to evaluate your websites. So he's a big wig. He's a big dog. So here are some of the heuristics, though. He came up with these himself. These are part of the systems that we design now are based on these heuristics that he came up with, I don't know, in the 90s when we first started making software. That's when he came up with this stuff. So visibility of system status. Design should keep users informed on what is going on through appropriate timely feedback, right? So make sure it's visible. You could see what it's doing. What is this website doing? It's giving me a shopping cart, or it's telling me about a card game that I want to go play, or something. Match between system and real world. The design should speak the user's language. Use words like phrases that are concepts familiar to the user rather than intentional jargon. Make it easy to understand. I think we've simplified that since, the early days of the internet. Error prevention. We don't really have errors yet because we're not prototyping, but when we get to that point, that's when errors and code doesn't work and things look wonky, and we need to fix that. So aesthetic and minimalist design. Interfaces should not contain information which is irrelevant. Every extra unit of information an interface competes with the relevant units of information, right? So, just remember we had that lecture on visual hierarchy. You want all your best stuff at the top and then kind of trickle down, right? So what do you want to emphasize? And keeping it minimal is the best way to do that when you're trying to have people focus, which is what we're trying to get, is people's attention, which is very difficult and bifurcated these days. User control and freedom. Users often perform actions by mistake. They need clearly marked emergency exit, right? So you know how, like, when you submit a form, it won't let you submit? That's what they're talking about. That's the control and freedom of, like, it won't let you submit because we need that information for you to submit the file or whatever, submit your credit card or whatever you're doing online. Consistency and standards. Users should not have to wonder whether different words, situations, or actions mean the same thing. Right? Recognition rather than recall. Minimize the user's memory. Yeah, people don't remember anything. Just remember that. They're not going to remember to go back. They don't, when people, for some reason, because of our ADD and how easily and accessible things are, we don't really want them to have to use the back button. We want to have all the buttons there so they can just kind of go, right? It's a little bit different when you're designing an app on a phone. I don't think we've really figured out ideal navigation yet, because we just have that hamburger menu, the 3 lines, and that just doesn't seem like it works well. But because of the nature and the size of the phone, we haven't quite figured out a great way because it's such a weird screen size. I think there's a new Google phone that is it's like a book. It like opens up and it's more of a square instead of a vertical, you know. So I think that's going to change how we see things, you know. When I first started designing, all of these devices were coming out. So I had to design for a computer. I designed for an iPad. I designed for a Chromebook. I designed for a phone. It was a nightmare. Now we have this thing called, it's called, not recognizable, responsive. Sorry, I don't know where my brain is. Responsive design. So what that means is it's built into the code now to read what device it's using, and then the menu and the design flips, right? And it adapts to the device. So we have that now. We didn't when it first happened, or when we first had these, you know, new devices. So we've built into the code now that things kind of just, they adjust. But you'll see when you go on old websites and when you go on older things, it looks really bad on your phone or it looks really bad on this. That's because it's not a responsive design. So flexibility and efficiency of use, shortcuts hidden from novice users, that may speed up interaction. Shortcuts for people that have used it all the time. You know, when you already log in, you know where to go, or you go to your, you know, menu and you have your own kind of history or whatever, things like that. Recognize, diagnose, and recover from errors. Indicate the problem. That's when we test things. And then help and documentation. A lot of people need help and documentation. So that's a big one. So those are his heuristics. And it's important that you know about those. But yeah. So that's what's going on this week. That's our lecture. This is our last lecture. I'm super stoked that you took this class. I'm hoping that you'll be able to actually make designs and then continue on and become a remote worker like I did, and actually get a good paying job working from home, which I also have done. So I feel like if you get this certificate, you can do this. And part of that is learning how to sell yourself. So in digital portfolio, which is the next class next semester, that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to make a website for your portfolio, and we're putting this case study as the front and center page. So that's why you need to make this look pretty. So, because this will make you look good eventually at the end game. That's what the end game is. So anyway, here is your last assignment, and your final, basically, is your high fidelity mock-up. So if you have any questions, reach out. If not, have a great holiday, and I will see you soon. Okay, bye.